Another week, another episode of the Coastal Feuds podcast. I'm Braden Plord, your host. Alongside me are my co-stars Charlie Van Dyke and Arjun Pirani. We're excited for another day to talk to you guys about sports. We're going to start with the MLB playoffs. The Tigers eliminated the Astros, who I think missed the NLDCS for the first time since 2017 this year. So crazy to see the Tigers on their hot streak and just a wonderful season they're having. .2 chance of making the playoffs in August to where they are now. It's truly astonishing to see. Right now they are leading the Guardians 1-0 in that series. And then next, the Royals eliminated the Orioles, who had a fantastic regular season. And now they're leading the Yankees 1-0 in that series. And the Mets with a movie scene type walk-off with Pete Alonso to eliminate the Brewers. And now they faced a walk-off of their own. Nick Castellanos walk-off home run. So now the series against the Phillies is tied 1-1. And finally, the San Diego Padres beat the Atlanta Braves to move on against the Dodgers. And the Dodgers do lead the series 1-0. So while we haven't been talking a whole lot of other sports besides football, but we just wanted to touch up on the MLB playoffs and NBA season. Some preseason games were going. We saw the Celtics and the Nuggets. They played in Abu Dhabi. They had a couple games. Celtics won both. Peyton Pritchard looking pretty good in both games. Like to see that from the reigning champions. But anyway, gentlemen, let's jump right in to college football. Week 6, I believe it is. 5 or 6? Week 6?
Virus, it doesn't matter.
6.
All right.
6?
Starting off.
Okay, 6.
This was upset central. We haven't seen upsets like this in a long time. Vanderbilt upsetting number 1 ranked Alabama 40-35. And I just have to give so much credit and so much respect to Diego Pavia, the JUCO transfer. I think he had no stars coming out of high school, transferring to one of the teams that hasn't had a ton of success in the SEC in Vanderbilt and leading them over number 1 ranked Alabama. He had an extremely clean game. He was super efficient, 16 of 20, 0 sacks, 0 turnovers. When you're playing a team like Alabama, you cannot have those mistakes, because when you play those really good teams that you're not expected to win, one turnover and like one big mistake, it's going to start to snowball, and then you lose momentum. The other team that has a better roster will get that momentum and ultimately usually ends in a blowout. But Vanderbilt, they approached this game differently. And guys, this was a shocking upset.
Yeah. First off, shout out Diego Pavia, the New Mexico Military Institute alumni. And also shout out to the Vanderbilt fans. They walked with a goalpost nearly 3 miles in Nashville to dump it out into the river. And congrats to just the Vanderbilt people. I don't even know what their mascot is. I feel like I'm a casual. But
It's the Commodores.
Oh yeah, the Commodores. Yeah, congrats to the Commodores. They haven't beat Bama in 40 plus years, and they really led this game from the jump. Ryan Williams had a small day. He had a touchdown, a rushing touchdown at the end of the game. Didn't really do much. Brought the deficit to within 5. Jalen Milroe did throw a pick this game, but other than that, he had a pretty solid game. They didn't throw the ball all that much with only like 24 attempts, but he did make the most out of it. He had 300 plus yards in the air, and I do think that Alabama was just riding high off of their Georgia win last week, and they didn't take Vanderbilt seriously. And like Nick Saban said, Vanderbilt is the least intimidating place in the SEC. There's not really any intimidation factor, but the Commodores proved them wrong this week. Nobody had this on their bingo cards. Vanderbilt just beat them in every single category, really. And they just showed some great grit and determination to come out with the dub.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, Arjun. I feel like this is overall a great, just overall team game from Vanderbilt. I mean, you got scoring from all sides of the ball. You got a great pick six from the Vanderbilt defense. Great, just overall pressing around the line. I think he picked up 4 tackle for losses and 2 sacks. What was his name? Diego Pavia. I mean, 2 touchdowns, like you said. I mean, great comeback story for him. 0 stars coming out of high school. and I feel like overall just great overall team play. You had two on the ground from Cedric Alexander for Vanderbilt. I mean, like you said, Vanderbilt is a very non-intimidating team. They've always been kind of the laughing stock of the SEC in really every sport. This reminds me a couple years ago when that one Vanderbilt player called out Alabama, and he was like, "Alabama, you're next." After they had some, I think it was some sort of ranked win. I could be misremembering that. And I believe it was the Chase Young year. And he goes, "Yeah, I mean, we are next on their schedule." And then they go to Alabama and they get absolutely smacked, 63-3. So a little bit of revenge game I like to think for this year. But yeah, like you said, Commodores overall just great game. I think everyone contributing as much as they can, and I feel like it's every goal of the SEC of any team in the SEC to beat Bama. Bama's always the team to beat, even without Saban. Just a fun game overall, and great play by the Commodores.
An interesting stat I saw was that during the game in the first half, it was about halfway through the second quarter, it was 20-7, and 20 points was the most points Vanderbilt has scored against Alabama since 1999. A truly phenomenal game from the Commodores. All respect to them. Alabama drops down to number 7 in the AP poll, so they're dropping down 6 spots, but those were not the only teams that dropped a ton of spots. Another one we can talk about, Missouri. I remember our first episode, we were talking about Texas A&M and how they've always been, a ranked team, and then they fall out of the rankings and they're right around 500. But they looked really legit against Missouri. Gave them a 30-plus point win. Missouri could not throw the ball. I believe there's just, I can't recall stats immediately, but I know that I looked at it and it was not a whole lot of passing yards. So really good job by the A&M defense and just capitalizing, going up against a top 10 team and just destroying them.
Yeah. There's a running joke in College Station that Kyle Field is the toughest place to play in the country for the home team and the away team. But the past week, Connor Wayman is that guy. He's a dog. He put on a show at Kyle Field. He dropped 41 on a solid, legit SEC Missouri defense. Luther Burden, I think, had a pretty quiet game. Brady Cook looked. The stats won't show it, but he looked rattled throughout the whole game. And I guess that's because the Kyle Field towels going on and all that. And this is good for A&M personally. This is a confidence booster for A&M and well deserving to their fans. A&M and U of SC, South Carolina, I feel are some of the most underrated fan bases. No matter what the score is, they'll stay to the end of the game and they'll support their team. But also, none of the analysts thought this would happen. College game day, I'm not sure if you guys were watching it. Kirk Herbstreit just whipped out every single fact in the fact book. And he was talking about how, A&M is going to get slaughtered at home against Missouri, and they're just going to keep on going with their schedule. But, hey, Kirk, I don't know what you're talking about, bud. They beat about 31.
That's a great point, Arjun. And I will say, I feel like there was almost something in the water you could tell with Missouri this week. They had a really close one against Vanderbilt last week, only putting up 30-27. And like you said, Brady Cook, he definitely might have been a little bit rattled by Kyle Field. I mean, according to College Football 25, it's the hardest place to play in the entire game, which that's their opinion, but it's a completely valid one. I also think a big point of this game was the A&M defense. Just looking at the stats here, they had a total of 6 sacks and 8 tackle for losses, really hounding just the line of scrimmage, denying Missouri's entire run game. And I feel like that's just great overall defensive play from A&M, something that they really need going into these later weeks in SEC football. And Missouri, I think they're going to be able to get back up on their feet, but they dropped a total of 12 places in the AP poll. I know the AP poll isn't exactly the most important poll anymore. It's the CFP poll, but for earliest indicator of right now, yeah, Missouri is not going to be playing in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, and we saw Texas A&M shoot up the rankings. I believe they're ranked 14th now. I think they had the highest rise out of anyone in the AP poll. But just seeing Missouri get rattled like that, it is a little concerning because we saw what a tremendous season they had last year. They've never really been a team that you're you look at the schedule and then you think, oh no, we got to play Missouri. But these past couple seasons, they've gotten really high up the rankings. They've put together really good teams, really good players. But in this game, it just was not their day. Next up, we're gonna stay in the SEC with Tennessee versus Arkansas. Arkansas. It was a little bit of fight. It was a little bit of a scrum, but they pulled it out 19-14, limiting Nico Imaeva to just under 200 yards, I think it was. But it was on the last play that we can really see Nico's, I guess, he's a young guy. I believe he's a redshirt freshman this season. But we see that on the last play, they're just outside the red zone. He's running right along the line of scrimmage. He's getting chased by a man, ultimately runs out of bounds after just a couple yard gain, just not having that awareness that, hey, this is the last play of the game. I got to give one of my guys a chance, throw it to the end zone. There were just from the replay, there were a couple openings. It wasn't just swarming defense, but I'm not saying it was just going to be an easy walk-in touchdown, but just it really showed his youth of not throwing the ball up, just worried about maybe throwing an interception or getting it batted down.
Yeah. Um, Nico didn't have any touchdowns this game. From watching it, I thought that was super shocking. And Dylan Sampson, I felt like was the only bright spot of the Tennessee offense. He had 2 touchdowns, I believe, on 20-some carries. But I do know it was a scoreless second quarter, which definitely contributes a lot. And also, Tennessee was shut out in the fourth when Arkansas really made that final push. They stopped scoring around midway through the third with 14-3, I think it was. And then Arkansas mounted that mini comeback and they scored 16 unanswered. And I do think it is part of Nico's fault, but also there was not a bunch of receiver play this week. I remember watching the game and I saw a stat and it was only one receiver had more than north of 40 yards, which is super shocking for this like super explosive Tennessee offense that hung 77 on Kent State. Now it is Kent State, but 77 points is still 77 points, no matter the competition. So I do think this is definitely I would definitely say this is a concerning game, but Tennessee just needs to get right back rolling and get back right on schedule because I think they were fourth in the nation, and then they dropped to shoot 11 or 12. I
They
don't remember the
are
eighth
Eighth.
school.
They're eighth. They dropped
they're
four. They dropped four in the AP.
Oh, that's it. Oh, then I'm thinking
Yeah.
of someone else. All right. Yeah.
Well, to your point, Arjun, actually, I do think this wasn't exactly a completely horrible week for Tennessee overall. I mean, you put Taylor Green on the ground 7 total times. That's pretty impressive for a good line on the Tennessee defense. But it also might just speak to the poor quality of the Razorback offensive line. But I still think 7 sacks is something to be proud about. I liked your point, Braden, about how Nico Ima 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 how you say it? I'm dyslexic.
just go with Nico.
I liked your point about how Nico is a very young quarterback in his youthfulness. You know, it does mess with the player a little bit. Not having that fully developed college football mind or not having that like fully matured idea of what how to play quarterback. I think overall this is actually a great game from Tennessee. I mean, you put two touchdowns in the third quarter, and you just got outmanned by Arkansas. I think there's still a lot of positives for Tennessee to take away from this week, but definitely a lot to work on within the film room.
Yeah, the thing that I think about with Tennessee is like you just said, Charlie, you said that they had 7 sacks against Arkansas and they still lose. So that's just for me missed opportunities that they're having. If you're getting 7 sacks, that's 7 different times that the quarterback is losing yards and that you're putting another down and putting the offense in a tough situation. And the fact that you still lose. So I think that Nico, being a really highly rated recruit, he hasn't seen a ton of losing or being on the opposite side of the scoreboard in these games. So I think that this game was one of the really first experiences he's had in his high school and in his college career that, yeah, we're losing a game and we're depending on you to go win it. because it seems that usually it's him making all the plays, putting all the stats, getting subbed out after halftime because you already have 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. So I think that this is a good learning opportunity for Nico, but I was a little disappointed to see Tennessee not take advantage of the opportunities they had with all those 7 sacks. And no, we are not done yet with the upsets. There is more. It's like an infomercial. Next up in the Big Ten, USC falls against Minnesota. I believe that they were ranked 11th, and Minnesota introducing USC to some Big Ten football. Really good job running on the ground, and just an overall great team performance from Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't watch this game a whole lot. Um, there was so much football on. I think it was a primetime game. It was 7:30, same time as Michigan Washington. I was watching the Michigan Washington game, but I did turn on the TV to see Miller Moss throw 2 picks. Those were pretty crucial. He did have more picks than interceptions. Um, and I do think that USC is still a very good team, but losing to Minnesota is not a good spot on the schedule, especially if you want to compete later down the season for a college football playoff berth or even a Big Ten championship berth, maybe. I don't know. I'm not saying that it's still in the cards. It definitely is. There's so much time left in the season. But I will say that Minnesota is definitely a scary team. I will say that I don't remember who they played. They might have played Nebraska, but it was definitely a close game. I didn't think people took enough credit for the Golden Gophers.
I mean, yeah, Saturday was. I mean, UCLA lost, but I saw that one coming to Penn State, to Arjun's Penn State. But Penn State, they're great. I think they're fourth. They are fourth. Yeah, they are fourth in
Yep.
the nation now. It's pretty great. And UCLA, I mean, hey, we're having an off year. Happens to everyone. But USC losing to Minnesota. I mean, as Joe Biden would say, Minnesota. Oh, it felt so great to watch this game. Miller Moss seemed a little bit rattled. He had a touchdown, and I'm looking at stats, 200 yards, pretty good game for a quarterback. But he still threw 2 interceptions to this Golden Gopher defense. And USC, they did lose a fumble with Quentin John Carey. I think Minnesota simply outmanned SC, outworked SC, and you can see it on the ground game. Max Brosmer, he forced himself in for all 3 touchdowns, quarterback from Minnesota, and they still put up 193 yards in rushing as a total rushing unit. I think this is, like Braden said, a welcome game to the Big Ten for USC. And USC, I mean, like Arjun said, this definitely isn't a great quality loss for USC if they want to have some sort of berth for postseason later. Then, in fact, this was so bad, this knocked them out of the AP Top 25. Overall, I'm very happy. Way to go, Minnesota. You made my day.
I will say, for the people that are watching or listening to this at home, USC is still the same roster. The AP poll is just a very, very important number in front of the team name. That does not change the people that are on the roster. Looking at my Nittany Lions next week, I think USC is the biggest test we're going one of the biggest tests we're going to have all season. And I will say, Penn State is not favored in this game at all. We have around a 40% chance to win. I do not think we are going to win. I'm going to say it out loud. I do not think Penn State will win. I see James Franklin in big games. I know it's USC. I know, but I know that Lincoln Riley, after he loses a big game like this, the next game statistically, he always comes back with a vengeance and he fires up his team and his boys and he rallies the troops. And this is a little bit unrelated, but I think Penn State's going to lose in a blowout next week.
I'd like to respond. May I respond?
Yes,
Go
you
ahead.
Okay. Arjun, you are not giving your Penn State Nittany Lions enough credit. They're the 4th-ranked team in the nation. SC is not ranked anymore. Yeah, it's the same roster, but the number in front of the team name means something. Okay? Their only quality win was LSU. LSU is not exactly the most quality of win we're starting to see through the rest of the season. They lost to Minnesota. They had to fight to beat Wisconsin, and Wisconsin kind of gave up towards the end of the game. and they lost to Michigan. Michigan was a close one. This SC team is fraudulent. This is biased speaking, but this is also unbiased speaking. SC is maybe the 25th ranked team in the nation. They are not making the college football playoff this year, especially after that performance. They will get outmanned. They will get out hustled. They will get beaten. This SC team is fraudulent.
But I
Your
will
Nittany
say
Lions will win
something,
next week. Your Nittany
Charlie.
Lions are going to win next week. Believe me.
Charlie, I understand what you're saying, but you also have to understand USC has had so many other challenges. They've already played Michigan on the road. They've played LSU in a neutral environment. We've played Illinois in a pseudo whiteout, and at halftime it was 7-7. And I know we weren't capitalizing, and our kicker was absolute buns, buns. But actually, we got a new kicker. New side note, but he was buns. Walk on freshman, take the scholarship away, get shipped back to Columbia, South Carolina. Anyway, I will say I can see your point, but the AP poll means something, right? So if Penn State's fourth, Georgia is fifth. So does that mean Penn State is a better program than the University of Georgia?
No.
Thank you. I'm biased, but if we go down to Athens, we're gonna get 160. We're gonna get smacked. That bulldog's gonna run over, smack Dwyer in the face, and he's gonna be like, ah, and then he's gonna keep it going, man. Clifton Beck is good. He is very good. Their one loss was to Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And it was a night game. And they went up against Ryan Williams. We have a washed Julian Fleming, and they know what we're gonna do. We're a ground and pound offense. We got like two competent receivers, but we have a running back duo, right? So let's say we go down to Athens, right? Or better this, Georgia comes to us, and it's a night game, right? And we're sitting there, and it's the first quarter, and Carson Beck throws a bomb to some receiver, and God knows his name, because I don't watch Georgia football, and he takes a bomb, and then what happens to Penn State is that we get rattled so quickly, and we have slow starts. We are a second-half football team, and that is so evident. So let's say Georgia throws a bomb, and we're down 14-0 at halftime. We are not coming back. We are not coming back. We're gonna at least get 10, and that's it.
Okay, one final response, and then I'm going to be done. Arjun, you just said that your team is a run. What would you call it? A run-in?
Ground and pound.
You're a ground and pound football team. SC has no defense. You saw it against this Minnesota team. They have no ground game. They let in 3 touchdowns to Max Brosmer. They're not stopping Minnesota running. They're not stopping Penn State running. I don't think that's just not possible. I can't see that in my mind. It's going to be at Penn State. Am I lagging? Wait, shoot. Am I lagging?
Yep.
A little bit. That's
I
okay.
thought it was me. Yeah, keep going. Push
Keep going.
through.
Oh, boy.
Push through.
Okay.
Put the shoulder down.
Okay. Push through. It doesn't matter. They're going to be at Penn State. They're going to have to face – is it a whiteout? Or wait, is this
No,
you know your schedule.
It's
What is
at
it?
USC.
Is it like a theme? Stripe out?
It's at USC.
Wait, is it?
Yeah, it's at – this is the issue, bro. We're on the road. And
Yep, you are right. It is at
Oh.
USC. My bad. They're going to the Coliseum. Oh, dude. I didn't get any Wi-Fi.
So funny.
I'm back.
Yeah, you're back. Just keep going, man. The audio is there. Your face just frozen. So just keep going.
Okay. Well, my bad. They're going to be at USC. I've made some mistakes on this. I made some mistakes on this podcast. I said CMC won the Heisman, or won the not the Heisman. Oof. Won the MVP last year. But regardless, I don't think D'Anton Lynn or anyone in USC is going to be able to come up with some scheme that's able to stop these Nittany Lions on the ground and pound offense. That's all I need to say. We need to move on to a different game.
All right.
Okay, well, I'll just say that this is quite a funny subject, seeing a Penn State fan argue about how his team is going to get walloped against USC, who, once again, it makes sense Charlie is going against USC because born and bred a UCLA fan.
Am I back?
One last upset from the college football week 6, Michigan getting upset by Washington. Two teams that have both had pretty significant fall offs from last season. We know Michigan won back-to-back titles over the past 2 years, but now this year their offense just has not been clicking at all. Washington went from being in the college football playoffs and yeah, they were in the finals,
Yeah, this
correct?
is a rematch of
Yeah,
the
it was
championship.
yeah, it was a rematch of the championship. That was casual of me there, but we saw that they're unranked. But it was a great win for them. They were still able to rush the field. And Arjun, you said that on Instagram there was a pretty cool picture of the fans, the moon, and just the whole Washington background. So it's great to see, and Will Rogers, the Mississippi State. It's either Texas
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Mississippi,
Miss-
the Mississippi State transfer. So great to see him get a good win against Michigan, but this offense just it's frustrating to watch because Alex Orji, he's an athletic specimen, but he's not exactly a quarterback. And we still see that anyone that's been subbing in at quarterback for Michigan just hasn't been putting it up. And their run game wasn't even that good. It doesn't seem like Donovan Edwards is that same caliber player he's been over the last 2 seasons. So this Michigan fall off, I'm sure Tyler would have plenty of explanations why this is happening, but sadly, he is on injured reserve. So we will decide when to take him off. He's in the middle of his soccer season. Good luck to him out there. But this Michigan fall off, it's something to be watched.
Yeah. Honestly, if you're Washington, first off, congratulations to the Huskies. Congratulations to Will Rogers. If you're the Huskies, you know what's going to happen when you play Michigan. It's going to be Big Ten football, ground and pound. Jack Tuttle was actually the starting quarterback this game, and it was announced that he would be the starter over Alex Orji next week too, I think. He only threw 18 times and completed 10 passes. He did throw a pick in those 10 passes, so that definitely isn't great for Michigan. Um, Will Rogers definitely just lit up the field with 270 plus yards. I'm not sure if that's true. And Jack Tuttle, I know for a fact, had less than 100 yards. Everyone on Michigan had less than 100 yards, including Donovan Edwards. Colston Loveland, the preseason All American tight end, was just shut down completely this game. He did have a touchdown, but he didn't have only 5 or 6 receptions for 30 some yards. And Washington, like the Vanderbilt game, just took control the whole game, it seemed. Michigan rallied in the third quarter, but then again was also held scoreless in the fourth, where Washington really started to pull away. And congratulations to them and Sharon Moore. It's getting to a point now where you can't be so predictable, right? So I don't know what to really say to even say to that. I will say Donovan Edwards did have for 15 some carries and he did have a long rush. I think it was a 40-yard touchdown run, 39, 41, something like that in that range of a long touchdown run. Um, but if you're a Michigan fan, you really got to sit back and watch because Washington was favored in this game. They were favored and they covered the spread, obviously. But they were favored. Everybody was picking Michigan though. Um, so if you are a Wolverine fan, you really got to sit back and ask yourself, is this the same Michigan team? Which obviously it isn't. They lost a lot of talent, but is this the same Michigan team that can contend? And at this point, a lot of people are thinking, how much is Ohio State going to beat them by in the big game at the end of the year? Honestly, it's quite a fall off from national champions.
No, I 100% agree. I kind of see a lot of parallels between this Michigan team and the Clemson team of 2017, I believe, in which there was a lot of a steep fall off. And I think to Brady's point, like Alex Orji, I mean, I think overall he's just a great quarterback. He really is. I don't think that's a fact that you can deny. But with this Michigan team that he has right now, I just don't feel like he's really getting really has like opportunities to show his ability. This ground and pound team that Michigan keeps running is not really working out too well for them. Being shut down by Washington is not something that can really happen if you're gonna compete for national championships year in and year out. And overall, yeah, Arjun, I think you're right. The real question is how much is Ohio State going to beat them by? Because right now it looks like it's going to be a cool 50 to nothing.
So that will wrap up our college football segment, and we're moving on to the NFL. Starting off on Thursday night, Bucks at Falcons. And this was an amazing game. Falcons end up winning in overtime, 36-30 off of a Daryl Hodge game-winning touchdown. This player that's deep in the depth chart of the wide receiver room. It's funny, he actually had a touchdown last week too, I believe, on a muffed punt or a muffed kick. I remember seeing that on the fantasy app. But Kirk Cousins, the most passing yards in Falcons history, getting over that 500 mark. Just a great game from him, and a little concerning to see the collapse of the Bucks. We saw Bucky Irving, the young rookie. He had a fumble late into the game, which then the Falcons turned into points. So a little disappointing to see the collapse of the Bucks team. And as the Bucks offensive tackle and Iowa alumni Tristan Wirfs said, that they just crapped the bed. It just was not a great way to close out the game from them, but kudos to the Falcons offense having a day. Both Darnell Mooney and Drake London eclipsing over 30 points in fantasy. So the lucky few that started Darnell Mooney and the many that did start Drake London, great job from both of those guys and a great offensive performance.
Yeah, first off, I would like to congratulate Atlanta Falcon fans. You have gone through so much so much suffering, and you have endured so much suffering the past decade, from the 28-3 against Brady in the Super Bowl. Now to see Kirko Chains swag surfing with these Atlanta citizens, civilians, people of the Georgia area. You should be happy. Kirko Chains is going to bring you to the promised land. 58 attempts, 42 completions, 500 some yards. Oh my God. And the Bucks didn't even play that bad. Baker Mayfield had 3 touchdowns. Derek White was not Derek White. I'm thinking basketball. Chris Godwin definitely had a quiet game, only 64 yards. But man, oh man, those Falcons. Oh my God. Kirko Chains, you don't need Michael Penix. You got Kirk Cousins until he tears his Achilles again, right? You're sitting here and you're thinking to yourself, man, we are the Atlanta Falcons. We actually have a chance. We have a cool stadium and a cool team, right?
Bring back the Dirty Bird.
That's what I'm saying. Might as well bring back Devontae Freeman while you're at it at this point, right? Y'all are gonna ride high for the next couple of weeks, no matter what, even if you lose. That's all I gotta say, honestly.
Yeah, I guess to echo Arjun's point of Kirk Cousins, to incorporate some more classic Minnesotan sayings. You like that? You like that? Kirk Cousins. That's really all I need to say. I mean, what a game! Unbelievable. Like Brandon said, passing the 500-yard mark, 4 thrown touchdowns. Thank you to myself, to God, to everyone for telling me to put the man, the myth, the legend, Kirk in at my starting quarterback this week. I picked him up off the waiver wire. Excellent pick. I sat CJ Stroud, and he had a great week, but regardless, Kirk Cousins made a clutch up for me. And I think that this Falcons team, I mean, like Arjun said, they've gone through a lot. The Falcons, just as a fan base, it's just been very hard for them in this past decade. But I mean, after a win like this, it shows your team has endurance. It shows your team has grit. It shows your team has perseverance. And I overall think this is a very positive win for the Falcons. Having to tough it out in overtime, and it's honestly great to see. As a Minnesotan fan, I didn't want to see Kirk go, but I'm happy with Sam Darnold, and I'm happy to see Kirk enjoying himself. I'm happy to see Kirk doing well in Atlanta. So overall, all positives for the Falcons.
Yes, and I will say, shout out Atlanta fans again, because you went from Desmond Ridder to Kirko Chains in less than a year.
I mean, it wasn't just Desmond Ridder to Kirk Cousins. It was also Matt Ryan to Marcus Mariota to Desmond Ridder to Kirk Cousins. And then who knows, maybe Michael Penix. I mean, the last time the Falcons drafted a black lefty quarterback named Michael, he did some pretty good things.
he also messed up a couple of times, but we don't got to talk about all that.
All right, and moving on, we had a lot of close games, but one of the most competitive divisions in the NFL, the NFC North, had a showdown between the Ravens and the Bengals. The Ravens coming out on top against the Bengals in overtime. Really close game, high scoring. I believe it was 41-38. Justin Tucker gets that game-winning field goal in overtime. Fantastic showing from Lamar. Over 300 yards in the air, 4 touchdowns. I played him in fantasy. That really did not make me feel good about myself. But then again, I'm 0-4, so I should be used to this pain.
Yeah. So, Lamar, I hate you. Same with Joe Burrow. My opponent had Joe Burrow on the bench this week. Not thankfully. So he started Lamar, and I am currently down 78-58 with Dak and CD still to play. So hopefully we come out with a dub, even though there's a lightning delay right now. Stay safe, Pittsburgh. But this game was definitely a shootout. It looked like Lamar was just out there having fun. There's clips of him. He's juking out defensive linemen in the backfield. He looks like he's just making them gas, and then he just throws like a 10-yard pass, and he just walks up the field as if nothing happened. And this is definitely a confidence game for Joe Burrow, even though they did lose. Joe Burrow, he played well. I think he had 5 touchdowns this game. So he played a great game. There's nothing to really be sad about if you're Joe Burrow. Now, if you're the Bengals, you did lose a game that was definitely winnable at some points. But in the end, if your quarterback is getting more and more confidence after a harsh season last year, and he's building that confidence back up a little bit earlier into the season, you can't be mad at that.
Yeah, I mean, like Arjun said, this was overall a really fun game. As I like to say, I'm a fan of the over more than anything else. I like a lot of offense. I like a lot of high scoring. This game definitely had a lot of it in it. I mean, Lamar Jackson, looking at stats, 4 touchdowns. Joe Burrow, 5 touchdowns himself. Another point I want to bring up is Derrick Henry. I feel like he has really, really found himself here in Baltimore. Soccer fans know all too well that any transfer or any trade or any move to a different city or a different team can really sometimes break a man's career. I feel like this has reinvigorated, recreated Derrick Henry's career. He is absolutely putting up yards that are astonishing to me. He is still his same old self, surrounded by a team that actually looks like they're trying to win. It's not Ryan Tannehill only handing the ball off to him and then just praying that he can muscle through 11 defenders. This is such a fun team from the Ravens. This is a fun division, the AFC North, and overall, I'm very excited. I like what you said, Arjun, about Lamar having a lot of fun. I mean, how can you not have a lot of fun when you are that fast and have that strong of an arm? 4 touchdowns is just incredible. Overall, fun game. That's all I gotta say.
Oh yeah, and also to prove your point about the transfers thing that you were talking about, Saquon Barkley moved this year, and he's also having a great time. And I will say the Ravens and the Eagles do have one thing in common, and it's a really good, competent offensive line. Derrick Henry's out here rushing behind Tyler Lindenbaum and
Linderbaum. Get it right.
Linderbaum.
Iowa legend.
Apologies to the 50 Iowa fans out there. Um, Tyler, I'm sorry, Tyler Linderbaum. And what was that? Saquon's out here rushing behind Jordan Mailata and people like that. Meanwhile, at their old places, they had a nickel and dimes worth of players that they could run behind.
Yeah, far too many times we did see Derrick Henry stat lines where it would be 20 rushes for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then the next week it would be 19 carries for 37 yards. So, seeing that good running backs behind a really good offensive line does make a huge difference. And I saw this insane stat on Twitter that on Derrick Henry's long touchdown run last week that he was only 0.16 miles an hour slower than Xavier Worthy on Xavier Worthy's touchdown against the Chargers. So 250 pounds of a man moving that fast is definitely a scary sight, and showing that, there were concerns about running backs and their age and how you don't want to overwork them. Derrick Henry has been taking so many carries. I remember he was talking with a podcast or an interview that during high school he would have like 500 carries a year. And he did not realize that it was that much until he got to college and he started realizing, oh, yeah, that's a lot more carries. So he's used to that workhorse mentality, and age is truly showing no difference because when you're running that fast at 250 pounds and you're barely, barely slower than the guy that ran the fastest 40 time of all time, that shows that you're in great shape. And, it's really great to see the Ravens come out on top in this division game, but a little concerned for Bengals because now I believe they only have 1 or 2 wins now. So they are still below 500, almost halfway through the season. Moving on, a game winner. It was Stephon Diggs' redemption game. The Houston beat the Bills by a Cammy Fairburn 59-yard field goal in the closing seconds. Great win by the Texans, able to get that punt return from Robert Woods to just outside field goal range in the final seconds. But this was a really concerning game for Josh Allen. He went 9 of 30. That's 30%. Throwing 30% completion percentage in a football game is not good. We saw Keon Coleman, he had the 150-yard touchdown, and that was about it. So when you can't even complete 10 pass attempts, when you attempt 30 of them in a game, it was just a weak showing from Josh Allen this week. Hopefully he'll get it corrected next week, but that was a really concerning factor for the Bills.
Yeah, I will say I was gonna say the same thing about Josh Allen and the concerning 9 for 30. He did throw for less than 30%. And if you're a superstar franchise quarterback, it is only one game, but this is definitely a concerning game if you're the Bills. Um, Keon Coleman, he did have that touchdown, but other than that, there wasn't really any bright spots on the Bills team. Texans, I know Stephon Diggs took a lot of the limelight, but Nico Collins also had a great game, even though he went out with a hamstring injury. Prayers up to him and my fantasy team. But yeah, honestly, I think Stephon Diggs was out for blood, and he got it. And if you're the Bills organization, you're looking at Josh Allen, you're thinking, gee whiz, what's going on here? 9 for 30? Like, I pride myself on not overreacting by one game. If it's a 2 game or 3 game skid, that's when I'll really react. But 9 for 30 as one of the best quarterbacks, maybe even top 5 in the league, arguable, is it's definitely a concerning stat line.
Yeah, and I want to go back to Braden's point about this, you know, Josh Allen heavily underperforming. You brought it up too, Arjun. But like when you look at the Houston defense and the stats, they only had 1 sack. Unless that sack was the biggest hit of all time, I feel like Josh Allen has to be throwing at least a little bit better because it shows that at least he has some sort of line protecting him, some sort of good like not being pressured a ton. I feel like there's not a whole lot of real aerial weapons that Josh Allen has around him. But regardless, great quarterbacks can make average wide receivers great. Um, like that Keon Coleman, I feel like he only had 1 reception. That 1 reception was his 49-yard touchdown. There is like, I feel like there's just a certain level that Josh Allen is starting to lose, a certain edge he's starting to lose possibly. I hope he gets it back. He's a fun quarterback to watch. But yeah, I believe this. It's time to press the panic button for Josh Allen.
And I will just say it's a little bit of an insult to injury to go 9 for 30. The one game that you're playing Stephon Diggs after you trade him to the other team. So that's a little bit of a cherry on top to a below average performance from Josh Allen. I just want to lightly touch on Jacksonville. They did it. They got their first win. They were the only winless team in the NFL, but they got it done against the Colts. A late field goal with about 40 seconds left in the game sealed it for them. Great way to see, and shout out to Tank Bigsby. I mean, he took over that backfield, 18 carries, 101 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Fantastic showing and a career day for him. So, congratulations to Bigsby.
Yeah, honestly, I did not watch this game because I did not think Jacksonville was going to win. But yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that. I'm going to be honest. I didn't watch this game at all.
No, you're good, Arjun. I actually didn't watch this game either. But looking at the stat sheet, Colts coming into the fourth quarter were down 20-10. They put up 24 in the fourth quarter. The Colts were not letting this game go easy. They are not going to go down as the team that let the winless team finally get a win. I feel like Jacksonville for my entire life has always just been really mid, except for that one time when they almost made the Super Bowl. However, Jacksonville, a lot of credit to them. They let the Colts back into this game. They let the Colts back into this game, but they were still able to keep calm and keep carrying on, as the classic saying goes, and put up 17 in the fourth quarter when they really needed it, and a game-winning field goal. I don't think there's a lot of positives to take away for the rest of the Jacksonville season, but I mean, hey, a win's a win, am I right?
Goes down in the stat sheet whether you win by 40 or win by 1. And with that, I want to get to our top fantasy performers, like our shout outs. So whether it's a player on your team that you think really stepped up, maybe your guy had a bye week, so you picked up some random dude off waivers, you threw him into the lineup, and he had a pretty good game. So I don't know if you guys had it, but I'm in a 20-man league. I'm currently 0-4. So I need some big guy. I need a lot of people to step up. So I've been using the waiver wire to my advantage. My shout out is Tyrone Tracy Jr. Had his first career start today with Devin Singletary out. The Purdue and Iowa alumni. He's a receiver at Iowa. Wasn't used, so he went to Purdue, became a running back, got drafted. So great way to see that he's getting his talents used. 18 carries for, I believe, 130 yards. So he did his job. He got the points I needed. Now I just need Patrick Mahomes to have a legacy game to get my first dub.
Yeah. I don't really have anyone to shout out. I shout out Nico Collins, 15 points for me. Solid. I still have two people to play. Three people to play. I have Dak CD and Chris Olave tomorrow night. But I will say I do have a not shout out for Hunter Henry. 2 for 32, buddy. Really? You couldn't get a couple more yards, maybe reach an extra inch. I could really use you right now. I went up against Lamar this week and Derrick Henry, so I'm not having the greatest time. But God, this isn't a great week for me. I can't shout anybody out.
My shout out this week, clear and cut, DJ Moore. 2 touchdowns, I believe. Great game for the Bears in their win this week. He has been really struggling, and I have been praying that he steps it up and that he actually gets me fantasy points. That's more than 4 a game. And like DJs actually do, they remix and they change it up. And he finally changed up his scoring this week, and he put up some crazy numbers like 34, I believe. Yeah, you like my pun? Yeah.
That was a bar. I'm not gonna lie. That was a bar. Clean.
Like DJ just did, he mixed it up. I'm very creative. No, I'm not. Anyways, big shout out to DJ Moore. I think I'm gonna get the dub this week, as long as I think it's the kicker doesn't get 110 points or something like that. So,
hey, that's doable though.
That is doable.
I really don't think that's doable.
Gotta believe, dog.
I really don't think that's.
If Justin Tucker starts bombing 65-yarders,
Oh, and has 25 of them? Yeah, that makes sense.
Baby. Oh yeah.
See, now you're in the right mindset. Attaboy.
All right. So now moving on. This is going to be the first time we've done this, but I want to do some all-time NFL what ifs. So I don't know if you guys have things in mind, but for a what if, it would apply to something that maybe it was a player that got injured. Maybe it was a person that got traded away. Maybe it was a move that didn't happen. So there's a lot of potential what ifs that we can do in the NFL, and Charlie's already seems pretty ambitious and wants to start right away. So
I like this segment. This is fun. All right, may I go?
Yes, you may go.
What if Brady's fumble was not called the Tuck rule?
That's a great one.
Whoa.
That's a great one.
I make cold takes, but I ask good questions.
I
Oh
mean,
my God.
if we're gonna use baseball, that was a leadoff homer. I mean,
Oh yeah,
that
baby.
was a great one to start
Oh
off
yeah.
with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
Braden, I want to hear your take on this.
so I think that with that, Charles Woodson, I watched the Football Life. I love that documentary. The whole series. It's so
Didn't Brady
awesome.
call it a fumble in the documentary?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
He
Yeah.
admitted to it.
Charles Woodson, he would talk about, I would just think 20 years from now, we're sitting in a lonely bar. I'm going to ask him, "Hey Tom, was it a fumble?" And this did actually happen, and Tom said that it was a fumble. But I don't believe I remember what year did this happen? Who did the Patriots end up playing?
2004, I want to say.
Yeah,
So
that sounds
But
right.
none of us are
did
that
they
old, so none of us can
who did
say for
they
sure.
end up playing in that Super Bowl? I think
The Panthers,
they played
because
the
they
Pan.
won on a field goal. I'm kind of guessing.
That sounds right though, with Steve Smith. Oh.
Yeah, but I think that
Whatever.
with that,
Regardless, what else?
even if it was a fumble, I mean, this the Raiders team. I mean, could you guys name any good players off that team or memorable ones? So I do think that even if they got this win, I'm not sure they would have really advanced any further because Charles Woodson was the only player that I could think of that really had a big impact in that game. But I do believe that the refs did mess up that call. When you watch it, the replay, the arm is not going forward. It is a fumble, but that's a fantastic what if to get us started off with. Arjun, are you looking up the Super Bowl right
Yep.
now? All right.
Wait, do you guys know who Marcus Dupree is or no?
You
That is
mentioned
right.
you mentioned him last episode about how he
Yeah.
was like he could have been the greatest running back of all time.
Yeah, he was an Oklahoma running back, but he shattered his knee.
Yep. It's the Patriots versus the Panthers. Yeah, Charlie, you were right.
Okay.
Bang, like that. No, actually that's not a great. That's such. I feel like injury what ifs are kind of basic unless it's really special. Because he still played in the NFL eventually, but yeah. Anyone else have a good one?
Mine was injury related, and it was pretty recent. What if Todd Gurley never screwed up his knee?
Ooh.
I said I don't like injury questions. That's a great one. That's a great one.
Y'all forget how good. No, not y'all. People forget how good Todd Gurley was, especially at Georgia. Oh my God, he was a work of art. Delicioso, some may say. At this point, and watching him was like a treat. It was crazy. Him on the Rams in 2018. I'm not sure if you guys remember. It was the game, like the first time we were really introduced to Patrick Mahomes. It was the shootout in 2019 versus the Rams, and it was at the Coliseum, and it was a crazy high scoring game. I think
It
it
was
was
like
60.
50 it was like 53 to
Yeah,
50.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
it
was.
was a
Yeah,
shootout. And Todd Gurley put on a master class. And I remember this so vividly. And I remember thinking to myself, man, me in fifth grade was thinking, man, that guy could play some football. And then little do you know, COVID happens, stuff turns around, goes to the Falcons. There's rumors that he goes to the Falcons because something happened with his knee and he got cut, and now he's with the Falcons. And then we all know the infamous play where he's supposed to go down against the Lions and he
Yeah.
doesn't go down. And then all of a sudden, he just drops out. Nobody's heard from him. There's no news. He doesn't go to the CFL. He doesn't go overseas. He's not in any practice squads. And then all of a sudden, he's on SEC. He's on the SEC championship parade game, and he's like an analyst now. And it makes you think. In the span of 4 or 5 years, he went from the best running back in the league with Ezekiel Elliott, that feels like a super long time ago, to now being an analyst.
Yeah, so I did think of this segment, so I did bring a couple of options with me. I'm not sure if you guys just want to hear one or if I got a handful along with me. So my first one, it's not injury related, but I do have a couple that are that. What if the Seahawks gave Marshawn Lynch the ball?
Oh my
I was just
God.
thinking of that. I was just
Oh
thinking of
my
that.
Guys,
God.
Yeah.
Nick Saban brought it up on College Game Day when Marshawn Lynch brought out the cart. He was
Mhm.
swerving all over. Oh, I just want to shout out that Cal fan that won
Oh my
$100,000.
God. That dude was
That
crazy. Line drive.
yeah, the no vertical arc. That thing
Exactly.
that was with his toe. He's
Uh-huh.
set to play high school soccer, but I don't think he really did after you're gonna kick a football with your toe. But
Yeah, I didn't see
anyway,
that. That's too early for me. That's
Yeah.
like 7:30 for me.
But
But
cool.
anyway, I think it was if that happened, if you gave Marshawn Lynch the ball, and there was this whole thing about after they threw the interception, Marshawn Lynch ran to Pete Carroll and started laughing in his face, which was the most Marshawn Lynch thing he could have done. But just think about like that could have been the end of the dynasty, just right there, because you're on the 1 yard line. You have all the leverage. Marshawn Lynch could not be stopped that game, and then you decide to throw a slant to your fourth string receiver,
Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin.
I think so. His
That's
last
an
name is
actor's name.
Baldwin.
I think it was
Doug Baldwin.
I think it was something. No, it wasn't him. It was something Lockett. It wasn't Tyler Lockett.
No. It was Baldwin. Oh,
No,
let me check.
I'm pretty positive. It was something. It was like David Lockett.
Who did?
Okay, regardless, keep talking.
But yeah, just if they gave the ball, because mind you that the Seahawks, this was their second Super Bowl in a row, because the year before they gave the Broncos a shellacking. I mean, a fantastic defensive and offensive performance. So just think that could have been the budding of a Seahawks dynasty. And we know Russell Wilson, what a great quarterback he was over that time. But after that game, the Seahawks really couldn't do anything else in the other playoffs that they made or in the regular season. So I think that was really, it was almost like a pinnacle. Like Seahawks fans, you're like, yeah, we're right there. We've got a chance. We've got a great team. Marshawn Lynch, Doug Baldwin. We've got a bunch of great guys. And then you throw that interception, and it's just been downhill from there. But a little bit uphill after that Russell Wilson finesse trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd actually like to keep this going. The idea of a Seahawk dynasty was so real at that time. I had multiple friends hop on that Seahawk bandwagon. And respect to them, they've kept with their Seahawk bandwagon for this many years. One of my friends, he has no connection to Seattle. Absolutely no reason why he should be a Seahawks fan. Only that they were good at the time when he was in like fourth grade. But during that time, he would bully me relentlessly for being a Niners fan. Because we took a real downturn hill after that 2013 NFC Championship game. Yeah, was it deserved? Probably. But, I mean, the Seahawks were so good. You had the Legion of Boom. You had Marshawn Lynch. You had so many weapons around the line of scrimmage, and it was incredible for me. That Seahawks team was so good. I mean, but it's always nice to see Pete Carroll lose.
Okay, so I have one final what if. I have a couple more, but just for time constraints, I'm going to list the one. What if Barry Sanders didn't retire?
Oh my God.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you think about it, if Barry Sanders had the career Emmitt Smith had, we talked about this in a couple episodes ago. Barry Sanders would undoubtedly, without question, be the greatest running back of all time. I believe he only played 8 or 9 seasons, and he had the 2,000-yard season. He retired in his prime, and I did watch the Bye Bye Barry documentary on Prime Video. So I do have a little bit more of an in glance about Barry Sanders. Respect to him, knowing when to get out of football, but he's just electric. Watching his highlight reel is insane. The Patriots play when he's just zigzagging back and forth, and you make a defensive back turn around 3 times and then stumble, and then the Cowboys. He made 11 of the world's greatest athletes dive into air in a big pile like they're just playing. It was like a rugby scrum. They're just jumping into air, honestly. And Barry Sanders walking out, we see the clips of the defensive lineman looking around like he didn't know what happened. And then we see the safety try and run after him and trip. It was just embarrassing on the Cowboys defense. So Barry Sanders, if he didn't retire, it would be legendary. I don't know what other argument there would possibly be.
Yeah, my question is if he would have gone to a contender. That's my question. Is Would he have? I know the Lions were not they didn't have the greatest pieces around Barry Sanders, but the question is, would he have gone to a contender? Would he have gone to the Niners? Or would he have gone to the Bills? Right? At that point, the Bills were running the AFC. The Bills and the Cowboys had met so many times in the Super Bowls, right? But then that brings up the question, would he want to go to a team? Would he want to stay loyal to Detroit and the place where his career came up? Or would he go ring chasing like some other players, right? It's really just that question. But honestly, I think I agree with you, Braden. I do think it would be undoubtedly he would be the greatest running back of all time.
I
And if
just
Tom Brady wasn't alive, maybe the best offensive player of time.
I just want to go back when you're talking about the rings. I think from that standpoint, watching the documentary on Barry Sanders is we know that he definitely did not want accolades. He didn't want to win the Heisman because he didn't want the attention. I think that just flat out speaks to Barry Sanders' character about he's just a guy that wants to play football. And if he played football for 16 seasons, I think we would have very unbreakable records.
Oh, 100%.
All right. And with that, that will conclude another episode of the Coastal Feuds podcast. Once again, I'm Braden Plord. Alongside me is Charlie Van Dyke and Arjun Pirani. Make sure to follow us on social media, Instagram and Twitter at coastalfeuds.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, tell your friends about this sport podcast. We hope you guys had a great time because we sure did. We'll see you guys next week.